Then we'll go to Moshe with a question about Professor Loretta Broning.
Yeah, it really fascinating. Loretta, she basically is dealing with the psychochemistry behind motivation. So it really, I came across her in my research, and I would love to hear if you've ever heard of her, and love to hear your thoughts when you do get a chance. She writes about the happy mind. She basically writes about the chemicals that are in the brain and how the brain is programmed to produce everything from dopamine to all the other chemicals it produces that creates motivations. And just really, it's the most simplest, easy to understand but still accurate form of psychochemistry that I've come across.
Yep. So I am not familiar with her work specifically. I did respond to your Slack on a blog post the Octalysis group wrote many years ago, I'll share it here too, about connecting those brain chemicals and neurotransmitters to the 8 core drives. Yeah, and I'd say one of the core drives that we don't really know how it behaves chemically is core drive 1 epicmenia calling, particularly because usually when people are about to sacrifice themselves for a greater cause, we didn't have any equipment. Humans didn't have equipment to track their brain chemicals and all that stuff during that moment, because it would be a little insensitive to say, you're about to sacrifice, so can we measure your brain frequency or things like that. So I'm always been kind of curious about that by itself.
Yeah. But Laura Miller actually did research on that. The awakened brain. She published like a few months ago. Really fascinating on spirituality, and she actually clinically shows spirituality and other other related things of just believing in something. Fascinating book.
That is very cool. I need to expand a bit of my knowledge on that side of things. But as we probably know, some of these chemicals, there's a few ones that are very well known. I think dopamine is one of the most brought upon neurotransmitter, and to the extent that one of the earlier gamification pioneers, also Gabe Zuckerman, his consulting company back in the day used to, well, it's still called Dopamine, but I don't know if they're still active or not. So his company's called Dopamine, and they were running the G Summit, and then Gabe Zuckerman went out to do other startups, and I think a lot of things just kind of stop operating. But dopamine, I think, is the neurotransmitter that powers a lot of action, right? Because it's basically addiction towards uncertain results or rewards. A lot of them connect to social settings, but they actually did an experiment where they removed all the dopamine level of like a mouse primitive animal. And when you remove all the dopamine, what happens, the animal has no motivation to do anything, including going to eat. And they don't want to mate, they don't want to eat, they're just there. So they'd rather starve to death than go and eat food, because there's no motivation, no drive to do anything. But if you put food at its mouth, they'll still move their mouth and you say, hey, this solves my painful hunger, not bad, but they're not driven to do anything. So and I can even tell my twin daughters, one of them, Symphony, has a much higher dopamine level, which means she's pursuing goals more, a bit more left brain oriented. But she's much more easily addicted to different, like when she wants something, and she will, if the TV, closes in the middle of a show, she will like create this fuss for an hour. Whereas Harmony, she's just kind of, some people describe her as lazy, but she just kind of like doesn't care. She's not very motivated to things. She just kind of goes with the flow. But she's also not very addicted to things. If things just end, you say, move to the next thing. Now, taking a step back about this neurotransmitter. So it is interesting to explore them. My academic interest hasn't been too high on it, because to me, it's the black box, right? How things operate, the engine. I'd like to study the input and the output, like what causes, what kind of input makes people behave in certain ways as an output, and even like feelings, like I feel inspired, I feel scared. That's not necessarily a core depth knowledge, but those kind of emotions are interesting to me. The exact chemical workings of how it happens itself is, and it's nice to know there's, scientifically how it works. It hasn't been a big thing. Now, of course, I'm sure with the book that you're referring to, they go into much more details about how to make it actionable and useful, and more insights regarding that. So, but for me, because when you said that, oh, well, it explains, why people are motivated. And so it just depends on at what level do you want to do the why. Someone punched you in the face, are you upset because someone punched you in the face, or because you feel pain, or the pain causes chemical in the brain, or now you have a defense mechanism, or because primitively your cracked up brain has a defense thing going on, right? There's all these whys that connect to this final result of you being upset. Maybe
different aspects depending which facet you want to look at, right?
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, but overall, I think I do think having this knowledge that completes the picture of what we're looking at. Oxytocin is something I like to mention a lot in examples. Oh, the nice thing about these chemicals too, when you mention them a lot, it makes you sound really smart. So it's like, oh, this generates oxytocin, instead of just saying, oh, people feel good. So oxytocin is the love, appreciation chemical, when people, so obviously a lot of CD5. And so when people feel appreciated, they get likes and all this stuff, they feel great. I think the one that isn't as well known for people is serotonin. Serotonin is connected to status and loss and avoidance when you're facing someone's individuals of higher status. And there's a very controversial public figure named Jordan Peterson. Hope you haven't fallen asleep yet, because you got to click the next video to actually see more content and collect your EXP.